Welcome to Dropping In, a podcast of storytelling and interviews with your host, Winter Olympian Mercedes Nichol.
Thank you so much for dropping in on Series 7, Episode 61. This is a series where I am talking to Team Canada's Paralympians. They have some amazing stories to share with us, and here is one more. I want to introduce you to Episode 61's guest that we will be dropping in with today. Our guest realized in his early teen years that if he was going to compete at high level in sport, it was going to have to be in parasport. This realization blossomed to a dream of competing at the Paralympics. Born with spina bifida, as he grew up, his legs weakened and he was no longer able to alpine or Nordic ski standing up. Getting involved in the Whistler Adaptive Sports Program at the Whistler Olympic Park, he found a sport that turned into a passion. He's been racing for the past 9 years in the sport of para-Nordic skiing. He's a bronze medalist, having represented BC at the 2015 Winter Games in Canada. He made his dream come true of competing at the 2018 Paralympic Winter Games as a teenager. And he didn't stop there. He raced at the 2019 World Championships and got to race in his second Paralympics at the 2022 Beijing Games. On top of all that, he is also an avid paddler. He and his father took part in the world's longest canoe race, 3 days long, 715 kilometers long in the Yukon. This Sun medalist skier, the canoer, two-time Paralympian, is training hard. Let me introduce Ethan Hess. Ethan, how are
Hello.
you today?
I'm very good. Yeah, a little bit tired. We're, I think, 10 days into a training camp here in Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
So today was our first day off, which was definitely needed after 10 pretty heavy days of training.
Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, doing very, very well.
Awesome. It's so good to see you. And now I haven't, for the listeners, I saw you when I was training in the gym and you were always training so hard. And then I
Yeah.
just saw some of your training in Bend, Oregon, where you were like lifting 75 pounds in each hand. I was very impressed. Always impressed. Now, I didn't mention you are from Pemberton, just up
Yes.
the road from me. You grew up there.
Yeah.
But right now you're in Bend, Oregon. So thanks for sharing that. Are you ready to drop in with the rapid fire that is never rapid?
Super ready. Very excited.
Okay, number 1. Do you have a lucky charm?
Not particularly. I've never been a very like item attached person.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Yeah, like I have things, I guess, that like items that come from events that I've done that I'm proud of, but
Yeah.
I've never really attached myself to something to give my luck to.
No lucky socks.
No lucky socks.
I had some lucky socks for a while there. That's not the best thing to do.
Whatever makes you perform the best, right?
Exactly.
Everyone has their own thing.
Totally. It's all mental, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Number 2, what's the favorite place that you've traveled to that Nordic skiing has taken you to? And then also just for pleasure, where's the best place you've been?
Yeah, that's a great question. Uh, New Zealand, it was that's where I've only gone there once before in the lead up to the 2018 games.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll get to go there again in a month
Mhm.
for a training camp, since it's the seasons are reversed. There's snow there, so
Yeah.
we'll do 3 weeks of training in a town called Wanaka.
Oh, you go to Wanaka
Um,
too. I love
yeah,
Wanaka.
yeah, Wanaka's an amazing place, isn't it? It
It's
reminds me
so
so much of
special.
Pemberton and Whistler.
Yes, a small
Yeah,
town, but like
yeah,
everyone's there for the same reasons. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Nice.
It's an amazing place.
Okay, and then for pleasure, just like maybe not skiing, is there anywhere else that you have fallen in love with?
Um, it's really just hard to beat BC.
Good
Like,
answer.
it's so hard to beat BC.
Beautiful
Like,
British Columbia.
yeah, yeah. Pick any. any of the amazing lakes I've gotten to paddle or campsites I've gone to, like logging roads around Whistler or Pemberton that have beautiful viewpoints. Like, yeah, especially now that I'll be getting back in the groove of traveling so much, I think I'm just going to
Mhm.
be super excited to just go home and hang out with my friends and go find somewhere cool to camp around home because it's just such an amazing place.
I feel like you're really good at finding little nooks and crannies,
Yeah,
um, when you go out. That's awesome. So nice to
yeah.
hear. So this question might be an obvious one for the listeners and the viewers now. Number 3, big city or small town?
Small town, obviously.
Do you feel like, because 'cause you're in Bend, Oregon right now, do you feel like you're in, like, kind of a bigger city even though it is a small town?
Well, it's gotten really big. It's like
It's huge.
100,000 plus people,
I
but
know.
it has this small town feel to it
Mhm. Yeah.
that is really interesting. Like I've been exploring like on most of the workouts we do with the team, but
Yeah.
then in the afternoon sometimes there'll be like a recovery workout that you go off and do on your own. And I've
Okay.
gone off and on the trails on my mountain board, which is like a big skateboard that we mount our sit skis on top of and train on the roads.
Awesome.
Um, and you can take it on dirt trails, and I'll just be going around and I'll like ask people like where the different trails go, and they're all so friendly. So it's
Mhm.
giving a very small town vibe here. It's really cool.
That's awesome. That's a special place for me too. I would always, drive down from Whistler to, Mammoth Lakes,
Hmm.
California, and Bend, Oregon would be where I would break up the drive, and I have lots of friends there. So shout out to everyone in Bend.
Super cool that you mentioned Mammoth. That's actually another training camp site that we do in
Because of the high
September.
elevation.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
personally been there, but hopefully I'll go this season.
I think you'll like it there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard
Definitely.
amazing things.
Okay, number 4, we go to the gym. Now,
Hmm.
would you I feel like this answer, um, but I honestly remember you just working out so hard when you're in the gym.
Yeah, on the
Would
skier.
y on that s yeah, the ski
Yeah.
elliptical kinda thing.
Yeah.
Um, would you have music blaring in your ears, or would you just be listening to your own breath?
Um I'm a big podcast person, funnily enough.
Okay.
Um, so, um, yeah, especially for long, slow workouts,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of what we do,
Uh-huh.
is just long, slow training, especially on the erg because it's so boring because you're just staring at the wall.
Right? Oh my
So,
gosh.
and then if I'm in the gym, like doing weights, I
Yeah.
don't really listen to anything. And if I'm
Yeah.
out exploring, I don't listen to anything because I like to hear the sounds of nature and
Mhm.
focus really on my technique. Like
Yeah,
I find I get a bit distracted if I'm trying to ingest information at the same time as well.
for sure.
But with the erg, I couldn't cut silence for a couple
And is
hours when
that
you're
the
staring at the wall.
machine where you're
Yeah,
just, like,
yeah,
pulling and with your arms, you're just kind of
yeah.
how would you explain that to people?
Um, well, I think like Concept 2 also makes a rowing machine. Those are a lot more common.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like a rowing machine, but for skiing. So you have two pulleys
right.
with with a handle with like a ski grip, and you just pull down. It's very ski
It's like a
like motion, but
tricep workout nonstop
tricep and back. It's like
and back.
for skiing, the main muscles we use for double pull are
Right.
lats and back and shoulder and tricep. But the
Okay,
main drivers are going to be the back muscles.
yeah.
Um,
How
so
long
yeah,
would you
that's
spend on that thing? 'Cause, honestly, when I would look up and you were just still going and I was like, "The poor guy. He's going forever."
I think back then I was spending like between 15 and 20 hours a week on it. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Like I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't do that again. And
Okay.
frankly, it wasn't the best training. Like the mountain board where we're pushing on the
You're yeah,
roads
yeah.
is significantly better. Just there's something about the pulleys attaching above you
Yeah,
that doesn't give the exact same motion.
okay.
And just the transfer of power is not the same because you're not
Mhm.
pushing into the ground. Like,
Right, right, right.
so I have one of those at my house in Pemberton, and I use it if my mountain board is broken
Okay.
or
The
if
the real
maybe the
thing
road
is better.
conditions aren't safe. But yeah, the real thing or the real thing on the road, which is as close as you're going to get if you're not on snow, is definitely a lot better. But
Awesome.
and it's a lot less boring.
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, what do you have a favorite race that you've been in so far? I mean, you have gone to 2 Paralympics, but I know there are a lot of races in between. Is there anything that stands out, or is it like Paralympics all the way?
Um, the the 10K and the sprint race at the Canmore World Cup, which was the most recent Canmore World Cup in 2021, late November into early December.
Mhm.
Um, which was also the Paralympic qualifier
Yeah.
for 2022, is definitely, I'd say, like the highlight of my career. I think I had the best races there that I've ever had.
Okay.
And the pressure was really, really high because I think we had
Qualifying.
3 less spots
Oh
this
my god.
games compared to last games.
Ugh.
So even though I'm a much, much better skier
Yeah.
this like 4 years later than I was 4 years ago,
Mhm.
um, when I was getting ready for 2018,
Mhm.
the guys I had to beat to go were a completely different level. Like the guy I had to beat to go, he was a 3-time Paralympian, and he crushed me at the last games and was a lot better than me. So I had to make up a lot of time
Okay.
in like over those 4 years.
Yeah.
And I thought there was going to be more spots. We were kind of blindsided by the amount of spots there was.
Oh
So
gosh. It's never easy.
so
It's
yeah,
and
yeah,
people
but
like I'm so glad we're sharing this because a lot of people don't understand the pressure that is before the Para Games
mhm,
or the Olympics
mhm,
and how hard it is to qualify. So I do
mhm.
appreciate that.
Yeah, especially I'm on the bubble a little bit. Like
Mhm.
I'm not the top of the heap of the national team, even close to that yet. So yeah, it was the most pressure I've felt in my career because it was like, especially because the 5K
Yeah.
before the 10K in the sprint, I hadn't had a good race and he'd beaten me by like 25 seconds or something. So it
Okay.
was like I had to have a much better race to even go to the games.
Oh my
And when you go to the
gosh.
games 4 years earlier, just like if I don't go to the next ones, it's going to be a massive disappointment,
Oh,
right? So yeah,
heartbreak.
yeah,
Heartbreak.
it
Oh,
was a lot of pressure.
I feel the I feel it
Yeah,
just talking about it.
yeah.
Okay, so Canmore 2021 highlight reel for sure. Um, Number 6, if you had to choose, would you choose canoeing or skiing?
For competing,
Yeah,
I'd say skiing. Like I'm way more involved in competing in skiing than I
yeah,
am in canoeing. Um, for like pleasure and enjoyment, a canoe trip is so incredible because you can just put all your stuff in the canoe and you can just go, and the amount of time you can spend out in nature because you have this vehicle to hold all your stuff
yeah.
and is an amazing feeling.
I love it.
Um, but luckily one's in the summer and one's in the winter, so I don't like. I'm way more focused on skiing. I ski like I don't canoe that much
Okay,
because I'm training so much for skiing.
yeah.
Um, but the good thing is the type of canoe races I like to do, which are really really long. You can be good into your 40s, 50s even.
Okay, that's a long
So
you got
that'll
some
be a
life.
yeah, I'll focus on those ultra endurance canoe races after I'm done skiing is what I feel like how my sporting career will go.
I love it. I love it that you love this, like, going forever. Because I was just saying today that my sport took, like, 30 seconds.
It's a completely different mindset, but I'm not willing to risk the things you guys are willing to risk.
Oh, it's always different. I love
Yeah,
it. It's so good.
yeah.
Okay, number 7, what would you say is the top place in Canada that you trained at or would go
Trained
train?
at
Yeah, in Canada, all of Canada.
um Canmore has some incredible ski trails.
Yeah, I've heard
That's why
nothing
it's the
but
heart of cross country skiing.
yeah, I've
Um,
heard such good things there.
but actually, Prince George has amazing, especially
Oh,
sit ski specific, because we need
okay.
less hills, less technical stuff. Um,
Prince
some amazing
George.
trails. And then Lost Lake in Whistler is great. Like I spent a lot of time there.
Shout out
this
to my
past season, but
backyard.
the season before. There's a lot of good skiing in Canada,
Yeah,
but
there is.
yeah, it's hard to pick.
I love that you said Lost Lake. I literally, like, live right there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great.
an amazing place, isn't it? It's so beautiful.
I cannot complain. Okay, so you have been on Whistler and Blackcomb, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was mainly a Blackcomb guy because my dad patrolled for Blackcomb.
Oh
So
my gosh, did he?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, my mom was dispatched for Whistler,
Oh, really? Super
so
cool.
they really
Yeah,
know each other. Okay, so
yeah,
you're a Blackcomb kid and
yeah.
I'm a Whistler
Yeah,
kid.
definitely. Yeah,
Rivals, but not really.
yeah,
That was number 8. I always love to ask that question for Whistler, like, area locals, because
yeah. Because everyone's got a mountain.
everyone does have a mountain. So
Yeah,
funny. Awesome.
yeah.
Number 9, how did the pandemic change your training?
It the pandemic came at a really interesting time for me because I'd actually taken the season off before for some health issues and some mental health stuff. Like I needed to take a step back
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. Um, and then the pandemic hit as I was kind of moving back into training. Um, and it gave me a really cool opportunity where there was almost nothing else to do.
Right.
So I trained a lot more in that pandemic year, almost double than I'd ever trained an entire year before. So
Yeah.
um, the pandemic was an amazing opportunity for me to just put in a lot of work when there was no distractions. You couldn't really see your friends. You couldn't do anything besides go out into nature, which I felt so lucky as an
Mhm.
endurance athlete that like you could still go into nature because I know I really felt for a lot of the other athletes who weren't able to go to the gym, they weren't able to go to the ice rink,
Yeah.
they weren't able to do their team sports. So it was a real blessing in a way for
Mhm.
my training and to be an endurance athlete. I felt incredibly lucky.
Awesome. That's actually so good to hear because I think again for so many other athletes it went in different directions for people. So I'm glad that you were able to make it work for you.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, last rapid fire that's never rapid. If you number 10, if you weren't skiing, what would you be doing?
Uh, I guess canoeing.
Anything else? Do you have any other hobbies, passions?
I'm really interested in history.
Mhm.
Um, So if I had gone down a conventional route of going to school, because I haven't gone to
Mhm.
post secondary as of yet,
Mhm.
maybe go and be a history professor or something like that. I'm also
Cool.
interested in being a personal trainer, so I plan to do that alongside my skiing.
Awesome.
Um, so if you're looking for training in the future, I'm going to be a personal trainer.
There we go, there we go. Shout out, I will not be lifting 75 pounds in each arm, I can tell you that much. I don't think so, I don't think I wanna do that. Awesome, okay, thank you so much for doing the rapid fire that's never
Yeah, no
rapid, but
problem.
I
It's
really
very
got
fun.
to know you a little bit more. Um, let's talk about your kind of journey into not being able to ski standing up anymore and that
Hmm.
transition into para, and then we'll talk about the Paralympics as well. So
Hmm. So I was skiing from a very young age. I learned to walk around the age of 2.
mhm,
Being born with a disability, definitely it took me a longer time. But then it was really interesting because the thing I would wear to help walk, or they're called AFOs, and they go up to just below your knee.
okay.
Well, and they give you support to help you walk. Well, what's that kind of like? It's kind of like a ski boot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So and my
totally.
dad was a patroller and all my friends were skiing. It's a very normal thing to just start skiing as soon as you really can in Pemberton and Whistler, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, I started skiing at a young age and then I skied downhill standing up through the Whistler Adaptive Sports program and skied a lot with my dad and my mom. I was homeschooled till the age of 13. So
okay.
if the skiing was good, the lesson was go out and enjoy nature and go skiing, right?
I
So
love it.
um but then around the age of 13, as I started to get heavier,
Mhm.
that was a big thing. The pressure on my back became a lot more, and then also your friends start to get a lot better. By the age of 13 in Pemberton, with the things your friends are skiing is just insane, right? So
Yeah.
it starts to get
Side note for people that don't live here, it's a mecca. And if you
Yeah,
think you're a really good skier, you're not.
yeah,
Because there's
yeah,
like a million Paralympians and a million Olympians that are all here, and everyone's trying to best each other. So
yeah, yeah. There's a million guys who never make it to that level who would be the best skier in a town in Ontario. It's wild.
exactly.
Like the level
Exactly.
here is just like you'll be on a chairlift and you look down and there's a 7-year-old skiing just
Oh, yeah.
the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's an amazing place to live.
Yeah, so your friends were getting that going.
Yeah, and then so then it becomes kind of tough, right? Because you can't go out and ski with your friends. The
Mhm.
pain of standing and became more extreme as I gained weight.
And is this your is it in your lower back, your upper back, or your mid back?
Yeah, it's in my low back. I forget
Okay.
what the I think it's
That's okay.
L4, L5 maybe.
Okay.
But the vertebrae are damaged essentially.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
so and the vertebrae, they help hold you up as well as protecting the nerves, right? So
Mhm.
there's yeah, the pain started to get worse. And then I had a surgery.
Okay.
And that put me out for like 6 weeks in grade 8. And for me, I needed to ski a lot to maintain my level, right? So,
Yeah.
and then also moving from being homeschooled in grade 7 to going to high school in grade 8.
A
I
lot of
didn't have
life
the time to
changes.
ski.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a variety of things that kind of shifted me to not stand up skiing anymore.
Yeah, and so then you said that you did do stand-up ski with Whistler Adaptive,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Um,
did you transfer into the sit ski in that program as well?
I did. I didn't ever really take it like super seriously, like
Mhm.
because at that same time as I started to transfer to a sit ski, um, I also started to take cross country. It was around the same time as I was starting to ski cross country, and
Okay.
I had this feeling of downhill is fun and it should
Yeah,
always be fun.
yeah.
I don't want to go and do downhill when I don't want to do downhill. But that doesn't
Okay.
but that's not how it works when you want to be really, really good. You have to go
Yeah.
ski in the rain when you want
Yeah,
to be a really good skier.
100%.
And Nordic just kind of sucks to begin with. Like it's fun and I love it. And I love being out in nature, but and
It
like
is.
it's very physically, it's not
It's
fun the
so
same way
demanding.
downhill's fun.
It's
Like,
so demanding.
yeah, downhill's hard and downhill's incredibly risky. So I have
Yeah.
a ton of respect for really, really good downhill skiers. They ski in a way that not only I never could, but I'd never be willing to.
Okay.
um, um, so I just had this, and I loved how the physical shape you had to be in.
Do you like the challenge of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I just
You are
found
a
it fun.
different breed, my friend. You are
Yeah,
a different
so
breed, and I respect that. I love it. I just
yeah,
because I like seeing that dedication in your face, and, like, I think everyone sees it when you race and when you
hmm
train, and so it oozes out passion to other people, like, my friend. You're doing amazing things. It's
yeah.
so
Thank you
cool.
so much.
Okay, let's so you transitioned into Nordic skiing, and how did that roll out for you? Did you just end up doing kind of like local races here, or where did that take you?
Yeah, so the first time I tried was through Skiing is Believing, a program through Whistler Adaptive Sports Program, which is an amazing program.
Yeah,
If you're around the Whistler Pemberton area, absolutely get involved with them and yeah, support them there. They do amazing things. And if you have
nice.
you have a child with a disability or you have a disability, reach out to them. They do amazing stuff.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, I started skiing and with at that program, it was a 1 day thing, so I tried it out, and
Yeah.
we did a mock race at the end, and I
Okay.
think only one guy beat me, and he was
Oh.
in his 30s, and I was like 13. So off
Nice.
the bat, I was like, oh, I think maybe I could be pretty good at this, I guess.
Yes.
Um, and I was competitive, right? You
Mhm.
lose when you're disabled and you run around with your friends. You lose a lot of running races for a lot of years.
Oh my gosh.
So it definitely lights you. You want to win because you don't get to win that much.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
um, so then I started racing with Team BC and my first competitions were around BC at like there would be Nordic categories
Mhm.
at um at like just a normal cross country race.
Yeah,
And then BC Games is kind
you
of the
did.
first level, and then Canada Games was like the first main thing to train for. Um,
Cool.
but from the beginning, they talked about 2018 being a goal. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna try and shoot for 2018 then, and that kind of became my goal at 13, 14.
As like no normal other kid would be.
Yeah,
My first Olympics, I was 22, so you crushed it, my friend.
yeah. It's it's a bit
How
pair is a bit different.
how was the experience for you going to the Para Games? I know I do wanna compare, obviously, the 2018 games to the
Hmm.
2022. Very, very different games,
Yeah,
obviously, due to the pandemic, but looking back at the 2018 games, um, was that an amazing experience for you, or were you like, "Gosh, I wish I did more," or, "Why didn't I do this?" or, "I freaking loved it." How was it?
definitely a mixed bag of both. It was from a competitive standpoint, it was disappointing. I didn't perform on the level that I had the year before.
Mhm.
Um, which when you're 17, 18, you just expect to just get better because you're just going to physically mature and ski more. But
Yeah.
I transitioned out of high school and I lived away from home. So and I didn't have a coach like close to me in Whistler.
Okay.
My coach was in North Van.
Mhm.
And I didn't have my parents living with me to support me. And I failed to get my driver's license. Uh, I was kind of resistant to do that. So that I didn't train enough. I spent too much time on the erg and not
Okay.
enough time really skiing or mountain boarding. Um,
Okay, so you
s-
learned from that
yeah.
what you
Um,
needed to take.
yeah. But on the other hand, my team had a record breaking games. I think we won something ridiculous, like 16 medals or something. It
Oh,
was an amazing team performance. So to be there and see my teammates winning medals, winning gold medals day
yeah.
after day was an amazing experience. And being surrounded by that energy, and not just the Paranordic team, but the Alpine team had a great games.
Mhm.
Um, the sledge hockey team won silver, which I know they weren't particularly stoked for that, but they had a great games too. And I got to go watch a sledge hockey game, and
Ah, I
which
love
was
those guys.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was an amazing experience, and it definitely motivated me for the future. But from my own competitive standpoint, it was definitely a disappointment, which is weird because
Mhm.
people are so stoked for you because you went to the games,
Uh-huh.
but if they're not close to you,
They don't.
like and you're talking to them about your career and stuff, they don't fully get like that you can go to the games and have a disappointing year,
Totally.
right?
People
Because that
oh my gosh, people are like, "Oh, how did you do at the games?" I'm like, "Oh, I got 6th at one of them because I actually don't know how I did at the other ones, and I don't care because it wasn't good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, it is I call it, like, this roller coaster for sure.
Sixth is amazing. That's an incredible
Thank
achievement.
you, thank you. But the other ones I don't know, so it's
Yeah,
kinda funny.
yeah.
Oh, man. Awesome. What can you just quickly explain, in Para Nordic, there are different categories of racing,
Hmm.
right? Do you wanna just briefly let the listeners and viewers know what those are?
Yeah, for sure. So in Paranordic, there's like categories within categories
Yeah.
because it so there's like three different main categories,
Yeah.
with male and female in both of those categories.
Mhm.
Um, Sitting, so that's the category that I race in. So it's sit skiing.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's standing, so people who are missing an arm or a hand or fingers, or some people who are lower amputees, like missing a part of their leg. Some of them choose to do sit ski and some of them choose to do standing. It depends on their background and the level of amputation and just personal preference. And then visually impaired. And then within those categories, of course, there's people with disabilities who are more or less disabled than someone else. Like me personally, I'm still able to walk a little bit, and I have my full core. So I race at 100%, which means my time is my time. But then that's not really fair
to the
if
others.
Someone else is paralyzed from the chest down. The amount of muscle, just below the chest down, the amount of muscle that they have to call on is completely different than compared to me. So then my category is called classification is what it's called, is LW12. And there's 11.5, 11, 10.5, and 10.
Okay. And so then their times just get taken off a little bit more.
Yeah, they all get a percentage taken off. So
it's so
LW,
complicated and complex, but it's like so good to know, because I don't think everyone knows that, because I mean, I knew that, but I don't get into the deep categories within the categories of the categories.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks so much for sharing. I appreciate
Yeah, no
that.
problem. I think it's really good to educate people on how parasport works, so then it's easier to enjoy it when you understand it, right? So
Yeah, totally.
I
So
think,
when we're watching you, we're like, that time is his time.
yeah. Luckily, what they do is they have the factor, like as you go
In
through the
it.
different checkpoints, and they explain who's in first place or second place. They factor it for you, so you don't have to do like the math in your own head.
Yeah, so awesome.
But it's good to help people have an understanding of how parasport works, because it's a little bit different.
Totally. I do want to touch on your nutrition and how into meditation you are, and cold therapy recovery, because I had my first cold tub at I think it was the 2010 games, I want to say. And I was like in so much pain, and they're like, you got to do this. And I was like, that sounds like awful. And then I don't love it. I don't love it, but I feel like you love it. Do you love it?
Yeah, I've loved swimming in cold water since I was a kid. Like
Okay.
my dad was really big into it, so that kind of led me being super into it. And just like we go to alpine lakes, and the lakes are pretty cold in Pemberton and Whistler anyways. So
Oh, pretty cool. They're glacier
yeah,
freezing. There's
yeah,
like glacier chunks in a lot of them.
yeah.
It's
Um,
cold.
so yeah, I've kind of always just enjoyed the feeling.
Okay.
Um,
And do you find that I mean, I found that it helped with my recovery for sure.
yeah, I do find it can help. It can help with your recovery, but it's interesting because I've read some studies, particularly one they did with road cyclists, where
Okay.
they had them ice one of their legs and then not ice the other leg, and then they trained for like 6 weeks, and
Okay.
then they compared the strength gain and endurance gain in each leg, and the leg that wasn't iced actually gained more strength.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, and the reason they think this is happening is because you're blunting the signal to your body to get better by icing
Okay.
it.
Okay, interesting.
So in training, I try not to do ice right after.
Okay.
I'm actually a big fan of contrast, so I go back and forth between
Mhm.
hot and cold,
Mhm.
because I believe that there's a dilation and a constriction in the cells which cycles nutrients and blood out.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so I think this gives a recovery factor, but the signal isn't being disrupted in the same way.
Yeah.
But then if I'm at a competition,
Yeah.
um, then I'll do the cold, or even leading into the competition. Shivering it demands a lot of calories.
Yeah.
So if I need to get a little bit leaner, going into race season,
Yeah.
I'll do a really cold bath
Sounds awful.
to shiver, to try and burn some more calories. If I can't train a bunch because we're tapering,
Yeah.
and I'd rather do an ice bath and then get to eat more chocolate than not eat the chocolate and not do the ice bath. So,
I love it.
yeah, and I enjoy the feeling and the things it does to your mind, I think is the biggest factor
Yeah, is
is
it kind of like a meditation for you as well? Like, how long would you stay in?
um the longest ones I've done are like between like 10 and the longest one I've ever done is probably like 25 minutes. But that was
Oh my
that's just to push myself mentally. There was no other reason to do that other than I wanted to see if I could.
You're just numb. You wanna
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Good for you.
but
Amazing.
normal is like 10 to 10 minutes
Still
around.
sounds awful. Awful. Props to you. Oh my gosh. So you are training in Bend, Oregon right now. What is next on the roster for you?
Um, so then I think we have an intensity coming up, so a hard interval workout. And then we're gonna climb Mount Bachelor one more time, I believe.
Okay.
So we roller ski up the road, which is amazing. As a
It's beautiful
para athlete,
view.
there's not as many opportunities to go up mountains. So a
Okay.
paved road to the top of a mountain is a really cool experience. So we'll go to the top and then we'll do laps for some elevation training.
Awesome.
Um, oh, and I wanted to touch on the meditation as well.
Yeah.
Um, there's a method called the Wim Hof method, which
Oh,
is
that's the bath, the cold
yeah,
water
it's the cold
ones.
bath combined
Yeah.
with a meditation breathing, and
Yeah.
and I that was kind of where I started to experiment with these breathing techniques. But
Okay.
then my dad is actually a shamanic yoga teacher.
Oh,
Um,
cool. What
so
hasn't your dad done?
yeah, and my mom's a yoga teacher too. Well, and
Okay.
has been in the past. So
They're all
I
about the
started to get
breathing, I
really
bet.
interested in yoga and excuse me.
But are they, like, more so yoga with the breath work as well? Because I feel like that's really
My
authentic.
my mom was more movement
Okay.
um and breath.
Yeah.
Like she was talking to me about this breathing stuff actually years ago, and then I didn't start to get interested in it until later.
It
And of
takes a
course she's
while.
like, yeah, of course you don't get interested in it until your dad starts doing it, which is ridiculous. I should have listened to her
I
earlier in
think we
life.
I think we always say that though, looking
Yeah.
back.
Um But yeah, and like you said, it's more authentic because it's really interesting what happened with yoga when it came to the West. The
Yeah.
breathing was a little too spiritual, like conflicted with like religion too much
Yeah.
when yoga was first trying to make its footprint. So what they did is they just made it kind of like stretching and a workout, right? Is
Totally.
to try and sell it to the West.
Yeah.
But yoga was always about breathing
Mhm.
and always about meditation.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's like of course it was about movement too. Like that's a different I think it's called asana is the movement piece, but the
Mhm.
main piece was always about breathing.
Yeah.
Um, so and yeah, it's incredibly interesting the
So
impact it can have on your mind. Your psychology is the way it can change and is very very interesting. It can help you get into flow state when you're skiing because you can get used to being there from the breathing.
mhm.
So yeah,
And is that the breathing that you would use in the 25 minutes that you were in the cold tub?
um, I wouldn't. Like there's actually a risk of passing out when you do too much of the
Yeah.
meditation. So they tell you not to do it when you're in the cold water. You do it
Mhm.
before, and it
Okay.
kind of primes your mind to
Yeah.
handle
Right.
the cold water, and then I might do it after
Okay.
again. Like
So
I try
cool.
and take deep, controlled, solid breaths, but there's a bunch of different kinds of yoga breathing you can do. Um,
I
and
would do, like, the
yeah,
switching back and forth.
that's actually part of my pre-race routine.
Me
And
too.
that has
I would
been
do
like, my
that.
mom taught me that when I was like 15 years old, and
Yeah.
I you can see me doing it in the start, like if the camera's ever on me in the
Yeah.
starting lineup,
Where
like
you
just as the
for the
person.
listeners, you cover one nostril, breathe
Yeah,
in, and then cover the other nostril.
yeah.
Um, I agree. That it's just so, grounding, I think,
Mhm.
and calming if you're, like, getting nervous or something.
Mhm. Yeah, it's,
Okay,
I
we'll
think
keep
it's
our
called
eyes out.
Dragon Breath
I can't
or
remember.
something, Breath of
Being
Fire. I can't remember what
being
that one's called, but
it's
yeah, it's part of my pre-race routine. I'm a
That's
big,
awesome.
big fan of that one. It's fun that
So
you do that as well.
I don't have to do it anymore. Well, maybe if I'm,
Yeah.
like, freaking out, but yeah, I was,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I was super into that for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
super cool.
Ethan, thank you so much. Is there anything else? We didn't really touch on, the 2022 games
We
and
didn't.
the
I'd love to.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the pandemic was just a game changer, and it was
Mhm.
lucky that you guys even got to go.
Yep.
Was there any, like, fear in your head going to those games?
Yeah, the biggest factor was like about the pandemic wasn't when you're actually there, because once you're there, I felt like we made it.
Yeah,
Everyone got tested a bunch coming in.
yeah.
We're gonna be fine now. Like, yeah, I had a high level of confidence that once we were there, it was gonna be okay.
Mhm.
So there's definitely getting on that plane, a big sigh of relief, and then getting to the village, another huge sigh of relief.
Yeah.
But yeah, the months leading into it, you're not really seeing your friends inside at all.
Mhm.
Um, you're cutting down the amount of people you're seeing a bunch.
Mhm.
Um, so that's hard, obviously.
For
And then
sure.
yeah, just the stress of like if you go and get groceries, then you're just like stressed out for like a week
Yeah,
of
it's
am
something
I going to get
else.
it? Because not only would you not be able to go, but how is it going to impact your training if you do get it in say January, and then our games are in March, so you could recover and you could go and test
Yeah.
negative enough times, but um yeah, it was
The
definitely
impact on your
added.
body.
It made the stress, like it upped the stress levels a lot
For
for
sure.
sure.
Did you get to walk or wheel into the, opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies? Were you
I
there
I
for
I,
those?
I didn't for either. We were really far away in 2022.
Okay.
Um, so I didn't get to go to either. In 2018, I went to just the closing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's kind of this culture in Nordic of like we race usually the next day or the day after.
Mhm. So, yeah,
So
you wouldn't go.
yeah, there's and I'm sure there is for other sports, but
Yeah.
Nordic, I really like. Yeah, I feel like just that every moment of sleep, every moment of
Yeah.
relaxation you can get is going to give you more gas to push in the
Absolutely.
race. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, you probably won't see me in the opening ceremonies
Yeah, that's
for
totally understandable, and I
quite
think
some time.
a lot of people don't know that. I literally was
Hmm.
talking to someone today, they're like, "Oh, I just thought everyone walked in the all the athletes walked in the opening ceremonies." I was like, "No, because it
Hmm.
can be detrimental to your race or your
Hmm.
competition."
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I do appreciate that so much. Where can people find you online if they wanna check out what you're doing?
I'm mainly active on Instagram, so Hess underscore Ethan.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's kind of where I post all my stuff. I am planning on having a website built that will probably include a blog, but it'll be mainly around personal training. Once I get that and get a kind of a online business up and running, that's kind of
Yeah.
my plan, is to do online coaching while I'm so I can travel
Cool.
and coach.
Nice.
Particularly for people with disabilities.
Mhm.
I'm really I really want to give back to the community, and I know there's a lot of health problems in the disability community. It's hard to move for a lot of us just because we're in pain.
Yeah.
That so I'm super passionate about helping fitness in the disability community. So yeah, look for that. I'll be posting updates on my Instagram about that. So Hess underscore Ethan is where all the main stuff will be.
Awesome. Ethan, thank you so much for dropping in today. I've
Yeah.
learned so much more, and I hope you make it to New Zealand again and all the places that you love, and wish you the best of luck in training.
Thank you so much. Yeah, super. This is my first podcast appearance ever, so I'm super happy to be here. And yeah, thank you so much.
All right, everyone go follow Ethan and we will chat soon.
Bye.
Thanks so much for dropping in today. You can find everything you want to know about Dropping In with Mercedes at droppinginwithmercedes.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks DJ Kenosis for the music and my mom for the intro voice.